Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. The trailer, Andy, I put 2 in there, but I picked the 1 because I'm so upset that Lucy McClane is not in the movie, but she is in this trailer.
Is that just because Mary Elizabeth Winstead returned to play the bit part?
Because she's so good at everything, Andy. Everything. She's good at everything.
Or is it really because you feel like she brought a lot to the table? She's good at like bocce ball and pinochle, and I would play any party game that she was involved with. She makes a great canapé.
She does. Oh, Andy, her 7-layer dip.
What were those things in Silver Linings Playbook? The little Krabby Pops?
Oh, man. Oh, I wish I had that little bit of trivia right on my tongue. I don't.
I do too.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, well.
So this trailer, the first trailer 1, it's the teaser. It's definitely the teaser, and it feels more like an awards ceremony montage to me. It's like 15 frames of every explosion cut together to Ode to Joy.
Yeah, and then Ode to Joy with like repeating notes. Keep going, just so you can get more explosions.
And because this movie is better if you're actively having a stroke.
That's what I feel like the music's trying to do.
In both cases, I mean, the second one gives you, I guess, a little bit more of the story and everything. But again, it's really emphasizing, it's not even emphasizing like the good stuff about Die Hard. It's emphasizing explosions and action and more kicking ass and more and more and more. It's like Rennie Harlan stepped up to a frightening new level.
That's right. It is. It's interesting use of music with all the boomy stuff. It really does scream that that it's an action movie and you need to bow down before it. But even in the trailer, I still struggle with seeing from Bruce Willis any sense of commitment from him that he really wants to be there. These are cold, vacant eyes of John McClane that I feel like at the end of every sequence, he was facepalming himself. Why did I agree to do this?
It feels that way in the trailer, and we'll find out soon if we felt that way about the film. But it really has that kind of tired sense. And I think it's just this is one of those things where the people behind the trailers looked at the finished product that was given to them of the film and said, well, there's really not much here. I guess we'll just show a lot of explosions.
Like a charm. Worked like a charm.
Dad, just try not to make an even bigger mess of things.
Yippee-ki-yay.
Да.
First time in Moscow? Yeah. First time. American? Yeah, New York. Are you cop? Yeah. Welcome to Moscow.
Jack! Dad?
This is The Next Reel, everybody. I'm Pete Wright, and that there is Andy Nelson.
Hey, hey, hey.
And we spoil movies. Tonight on the show, John Moore takes the helm of the fifth and final film in our series, making us wish it was a good day to die hard. Before we get into that, you should learn more about us at thenextreel.com, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast app, or follow us on Twitter and Facebook at The Next Reel.
And if you enjoy this show and are interested in supporting our ongoing work investigating great film, please consider a regular donation through our Patreon page. You'll get to join our back channel conversations on Slack, listen to the members-only weekend show, The Saturday Matinee, and get to help us pick movies for future series. We have 2 films in upcoming series that were voted on by our Patreon members. Just head on over to patreon.com/thenextreel.
Need a hug? We're not a hugging family. Damn straight.
John Moore is the director of this film, Andy. John Moore. He is a very special kind of energy, this guy.
Listening to his commentary and watching kind of the behind the scenes of him and everything, I really had a sense, okay, this is a guy who clearly enjoys movies and has a fun time making movies. But, you know, we all love it when somebody comes into a franchise or has a passion for filmmaking, and they know the franchise and they know, you know, the all the bits and pieces, and they're going to do some interesting stuff with it. You know, I mean, regardless of what people say about J.J. Abrams, there's a lot of interesting stuff that he's brought to some of these big mega franchises that he's kind of tapped into.
Well, you can say the same thing about Len Wiseman from last week.
Yeah, absolutely. Len Wiseman from last week.
Right.
With this one, with John Moore, I got a sense listening to him talk that, sure, he's a guy who understands the franchise and everything, but he also is a guy that doesn't really have any sense of kind of the humanity of some of the core elements that also go into what makes Die Hard work. And I mean, listening to him talk, I mean, he went on and on, like he knew every single model of gun that is used. Like he is a walking IMFDB, the Internet Movie Firearms Database. Like it's just freaky how much he knows about all of these different weapons, every single helicopter, you know, the tanks, just all these big vehicles. Like he knows everything. And he was constantly praising the stunt work and the amazing effects work and everything. He's very much a guy who understands all that. And that's great. Like he's got a good handle on all of those elements. But what I felt was lacking was any sense of kind of the core understanding of some of the humanity that goes into it. And if you look at the breakdown of films that he's directed, Behind Enemy Lines, it was where he kind of got his start. Flight of the Phoenix, the remake, The Omen, the remake, and then Max Payne from the video game. I just don't feel like, he's that great of a director. I don't feel like he's bringing that much into the projects, maybe not necessarily a great sense of humanity. And it makes me wonder why the producers picked him. And I really kind of at a loss, what were they looking at when they went into finding the right director to helm this fifth film of the franchise?
Yeah, totally. And I can't believe you didn't bring up IT. I know he did it after A Good Day to Die Hard, but man, does it cement the case you're making of just, absolute fawning over the technology, even when it's ridiculous, at the expense of the humanity. That is totally missing. And as a result, I hate John McClane in this movie.
Oh, boy, yeah.
I just hate him. He's not the guy. He's not John McClane. And Jack McClane, I don't know what they were intending. I'm sure someone somewhere thought at some point, wouldn't it be great if we could hand off the reins and make this make Jai Courtney the next John McClane. You can feel it in their final sequence together as they're talking about their names. It's just there. In the DNA, and they can't pull it off because it is a film that is absent. Even as it aspires to be a father-son, exploration in the midst of chaos, it fails to deliver on every count.
What's funny about what you just said is that I actually, Jai Courtney is not an actor who I've ever been overly drawn to. I think he's interesting. He's made some interesting choices. I mean, he's been in some really bad movies, unfortunately, like Suicide Squad and Terminator Genesis. But I actually like him as Jack McClane. I actually really kind of thought I can buy that. I can buy him as the son of John McClane. I think that he was a really interesting choice that could work really well. And it's just such a shame that this was the movie that he was given to be kind of continuing in John McClane's footsteps, because it just was so bad. And it's so frustrating because it was an interesting choice to have him playing the son.
And I'll amend my prior comment. It's not that it's not anything against Jai Courtney. In fact, the pairing of Bruce Willis and Jai Courtney as this father-son duo, I wanted to love it because obviously I love John McClane, and you're right. I think Jai Courtney has a lot to offer. I think I like him more than you do. So I feel like probably the level of my disappointment was greater in him because I wanted him to be that character, but he didn't, as a result of this sort of the vapidness of the script, and the, as you say, the lack of humanity on screen. I really struggled to feel like there was any allegiance to the McClane family that I feel like we've grown to understand.
Yeah, and I was torn if that was coming from Skip Woods as the writer, if it was coming from John Moore as the director, if it was coming from the producers, Wick Godfrey and the rest of the producers who were behind this, saying, yes, this is the script, yes, this is the director. Whether it was Bruce Willis, who, he's hitting an age where he's just like, I want to gamble. I like to gamble. I like to, see if this is going to be the one that works. And he's getting older, and maybe he saw a script and he's like, yeah, this got some good stuff in it. I think it could work. And he signed off on it because he was just afraid, wait a couple more years and I'm not going to be able to do another one, I don't know. I'm not exactly sure what it was, but Skip Woods, looking at the credits that he of other projects that he's written,
very similar kind of aesthetic to John Moore
Swordfish,
stuff.
The Hitman movies, X-Men Origins, Wolverine, the A-Team. Nothing that stands out as something that says, yes, this is the guy who should be writing the next Die Hard movie. So it just, all in all, it just, everything kind of led down this road of something that was, yes, it was bigger. batter. It had huge explosions, a mega car chase toward the beginning that has a lot of good stuff going to it.
It's the whole
it's the first half
of the movie.
Of the film, right? Yeah.
You know, it's funny that you say this like that, because all these movies, you know, I can find something redeeming in Swordfish, in Hitman, in X-Men Wolverine. Yeah, I said it. Even the A-Team. Like, there are some things in these movies as giant spectacle popcorn movies that are imminently more forgivable. The problem is they did that to a franchise that had had some momentum to it, right? It was coming off of a movie that we both liked a lot. It is a character that is beloved, and they took it places that are silly at best, and at the expense of, you know, remembering kind of who this is and who it's playing for. And I find that really disappointing, especially because, as I said before, I like John McClane older, and I think he's even older here. I think there was a lot of opportunity that they just missed.
They missed opportunities, and like you said, they did things to the John McClane character that actually kind of ruin some of the stuff that had been so good about him throughout. The thing that, the car chase is a good example. We're going to talk more about it. I don't want to get into it too much, but I mean, there are a lot of examples throughout where McClane, I guess I'll just, say this one. He basically needs a vehicle, and so he's trying to flag a car down in the street. A guy accidentally runs into him and knocks him to the ground. He rolls over. McClane gets up and goes up to the guy, decks him. Hard. Gets in the car, and
really hard. And you can tell it's hard because the sound effect is so hard.
Exactly.
It's a shotgun blast. Terrible.
He gets in the car, he drives off, and then as he's driving away, he shouts out the window to the guy he just punched and stole his car. He says, "It's okay, I'm fine, thanks." I'm just
such a jerk.
I'm like, this is not the McClane that I liked. I mean, yes, McClane was kind of a smart ass, and he would, kind of say these sorts of things, but it's like, but he was always doing it in the sense of trying to be good and help people. And here he is, he's not a cop. I mean, he's in a foreign country, and that's another thing. Like, he's always been so good in the other films about the jurisdictions and everything. And yes, he gets frustrated and irritated when there are those idiot cops that he has to deal with. But if they're effective cops, he's perfectly fine dealing with them. He's good about being a part of the team. But I mean, here it's just like a complete disregard for any life outside of his own or the other cars. It's just, It's ridiculous.
Yeah. And I love that you brought up, respect for authority, because we just finished a movie where they resolved the silliness of, lampooned cops. And in this movie, he's just a jerk. And I find that really frustrating. What is the deal with the antagonist? Who do you hate in this movie? Like, who are we set up to really dislike?
That's a great question. It's a nonsense set of antagonists. I mean, we get not one, not two, but three in this ever, Russian doll. I mean, it's funny having to say that, but the Russian doll thing of like, nope, that's not the bad guy. Oh, this is the bad guy. Oh, wait, that's not the bad guy. This is the bad guy. It's like, really? And really, I guess it ends up being 4 bad guys, right?
Well, yeah. I guess. And then, right, because the turn when Daddy shoots Alec and the daughter turns around and says, "Daddy, you're the best." It is a perversion on so many levels. It is a perversion.
It's frustrating. It really is. And it's, there are weird things with the antagonist. I mean, that's part of one of the many problems is the real delineation of what story thread are we following here? I mean, this political angle involving like the stealing of the plutonium, so I guess they can start World War III, I guess is the main thing. But it's like, okay, but you've got this one political figure who's in office. You've got this one political figure who is in jail, and they are friends. Then there's a bad thug, and then there's the bad daughter. And trying to piece all that together and like how they're all working together or not together and coming after the guy who's the one who's in power. I mean, there's that weird shot where it's like the one who's in power, he's like, it's a slow-mo walk as he's walking out of a building with like a whole slew of like, it looks like priests or something behind him. I'm like, what
is that all about?
Is this his army? Who are these people? They never come into play anywhere in the movie. It's just some random shot. And it's like so poorly set up to the point where it's like the antagonists are like this blob of nothingness. You just take all these people and mush them together, and it's like you don't really get anything good.
Yeah, and therefore you don't care. And none of that is improved by the fact that you really don't like John McClane either. So when you ask the question, who am I supposed to not like in this movie? Well, I already don't like everybody.
Yeah.
So I have a really hard time kind of diving into the narrative. It was work to watch this movie. It was really work. I had to force myself to stop and pay attention because so many turns I just don't care.
Do you feel like, I mean, this is our third film in a row in this series where we have just a really strong, like a kick-ass female bad guy. In the third film, we had the girlfriend of one of Simon Gruber's thugs,
right? The silent
who's
butcher,
really his girlfriend. Yeah. Then in the last film, we had Maggie Q as the fantastic fighter who's working with Gabriel. Now we have the daughter who's kind of in on this whole thing, and she flies the helicopter, and she's the one she and her dad are behind this whole thing. I don't know. I was like, is this trend getting really tired now of having these like strong females, or is it just tired because this one is just so badly written?
No, I really think this one is just badly written. It's just a bad character. I adore having the strong female antagonist. I love it. I mean, bring me the sort of counter character. I'm in huge favor of that. And I think we have, in Maggie Q, we had just a stellar example of when you can do it really, really well. This movie, you just was not. It was not believable, and I don't know discredit to Yulia Snigir, right, as Irina. I think she's a fine actor, and I just think she was given something that was a mess, and because you couldn't track her throughout the narrative of the film, you didn't care whatever skills she brought to it, and maybe flying that giant Mi-26 at the end was too much.
Well, and I think you're right. I mean, I was being slightly cheeky when I was asking that question. I mean, I absolutely love having strong female antagonists, and I just feel like it's just a shame that really. I mean, I can't even blame the fact that it's just a not a great female antagonist. It's really just not great writing all across the board throughout this film. And if it was written well, I think it could have been a really interesting part. Like you said, if the father-daughter relationship really could have worked as a nice theme, balancing out the father-son relationship that we have with John and Jack. That could have been a nice comparative thing going on in this film. Instead, it just felt like this forced plot element that they just lobbed onto it. It doesn't work at all because it's just badly written.
I'm telling you, man, the story we need is John and Jack McClane going up against Meryl Streep playing old lady Gruber. She comes back. Are you with me? Do you feel it?
Oh wait, who was the dad Gruber that Nick said over on Slack? Father Gruber was Michael Gambon. Michael Gambon and Meryl
Streep
as father and mother Gruber. I want that so badly.
That's the movie I want. That's what I want out of Die Hard 6. And that's fine. Make that the handoff to Jai Courtney. Give him some strong stuff. Here's the thing. Why did they send him to Russia? And I don't mean, in the context of this story, why did they send John McClane to Russia? We're going to talk about that point too. But why was it important as the story grew beyond its bounds of United States domestic? Why was it important that we even have a Die Hard that's set in Russia?
Well, I thought about that for a little while, trying to figure out, okay, so Die Hard, the franchise is constantly trying to find a way to not only be bigger than the last one, but also constantly escape the Die Hard in a blank kind of mold that it ended up creating because of the first movie. They didn't want it. So it's made it tricky. So, I mean, and you do have it. Die Hard in a building, Die Hard in an airport, Die Hard in New York City, Die Hard in
Chernobyl.
Right. The country,
We're there.
Die Hard in Chernobyl. Right. It's like it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And yeah, I don't know. I felt like the thing that I came to as I was kind of stewing over why Russia this time, and I think it was they were trying to put John McClane in a situation where he was dealing with his son, but they wanted his son to kind of have a one-up on him. And I thought that was kind of an interesting angle by making his son be like a CIA spy and actually be kind of better than John McClane at what John McClane always did. And so that was the angle that I figured they went for. Did it have to be Russia? No, I mean, it could have been anywhere. But I figured, okay, CIA, I mean, it could have been FBI, it could have been something. And so to that end, I don't know why they had to go Russia. But I thought that the reason that they chose to go out of the country was because they wanted his son to be this bigger, better version of his dad. And here he is, the CIA guy.
I guess I can see that. I think the thing I struggle with is that it felt so contrived. I mean, it actually, in fact, feels more like Die Hard in the Kremlin than, had they put him on at least familiar turf, right? The whole fish out of water, gestalt here is so played. It is so played. What would happen if we took John McClane and we put him in the I mean, it is ridiculous and manufactured. And that's part of the problem with the movie is that, you're watching this thing and it gives up some of the ridiculousness, like some of the forgivables, the things that maybe it could have earned the third act had the first two acts been strong and cemented in a foundation of reality that I can really wrap my head around, a reality that has earned itself through this character and through this character's motivations and as you said, humanity. But because it is silly from the get-go, it has lost all credibility by the time it gets to the end and they bring out the magical radiation cleaning chemical that I don't even, I mean, it's just head-slappingly bad.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. There's not a lot of reason for them to have written it this way, but it boils down to all these decisions that from the producers to the studio to the writer to the director to
tax credits.
Really.
I mean, I'm sure they had tax credits to shoot in
Bulgaria or wherever
wherever they shot.
Yeah. It all boils down to these elements that they were trying to squeeze in to shoehorn the next Die Hard movie and do it, as quick as they could on the heels of number 4, which was 6 years before. And right. I'm guessing that they were, it's one of those things. When a franchise is making money, they don't want to wait too long and because it just becomes riskier and riskier. I mean, I think they lucked out with Live Free or Die Hard being as much of a success as it was. I mean, it really was just because it was largely a great script. Mm-hmm. But this one, it's like, it was already 6 years. I could see that they were like, oh, we're getting a little antsy. We got to get this moving. Let's just, let's just go for it. And, this is the pitch that they went with.
There are a couple of things I hate about the Russian stuff in particular. First of all, the jacket that the fantastic and underused Amore Nolasco as Murphy, the file on Jack that he hands Bruce Willis in the beginning. Willis then gets on the plane. And of course, this is when he says, I'm going to Russia. I'm going to Russia because I want to find my son. This is, let's note, not a vacation. He gets on the plane and he opens the jacket that comes from this American police detective in the New York City precinct. He opens it up. It's all in Russian. Like the whole thing is in Russian. And he's like reading it. He's scouring it. It feels so dumb to me that becomes a thing that is important to him. And then, he spends the entire time, like all of his comic beats are, I'm on vacation, which is, it doesn't play because he's not actually on vacation. He's not on vacation. He made it clear, the movie made it clear he's not on vacation. So I'm on vacation is not funny. it's not funny, and that comes in and out of the film throughout the film. These moments that are supposed to be comedic that just are not.
It goes, yeah. The comedy writing throughout really never hits, and it just. I don't know if it was a struggle for them to just really connect with the kind of core parts of McClane. I mean, Skip Woods, I mean, he had been an uncredited additional dialogue writer on like Live Free or Die Hard. He's been around the franchise a little bit. He's one of those guys who kind of comes in and does some fixes and stuff. But somehow it's just like, I don't think he really knew how to connect properly with the characters here, because I just don't buy them. And I just don't buy the story. I just don't buy anything going on here. And it's just, was it the fact that the script was just too convoluted anyway? This was not one that was adapted in any way, at least from what I could read, from any other sort of property. From what I could see, this was just this. They wrote it as this was going to be the next Die Hard movie, and here it was. I don't know. Maybe there was something to those other scripts being taken from a different property and adapted into the franchise.
Let's talk a little bit about camera and color.
Yeah.
Wow. What color in particular is it's sort of the first thing you notice is these are people who hate Russia because they want to make it look really bad from the very beginning.
Sickly, yep.
Sickly, anemic, and gross. It is terrible.
Yeah, they really went to town with the color timing, just pushing those greens and there's just kind of those sickly colors up, and it's really intense. There are times where it's just, I mean, it's really contrasty. Like the darks are just like way darker than I ever would have expected them to be, and I'm like, gosh, why are they making it look this way? I really couldn't figure out exactly what John Moore was going for, but I know he's one of those directors who likes to kind of have looks for his films, and I guess this was the look he was pushing for,
Well, what's really interesting about it is the final shot after the crash, is such a gorgeous use of orange, right? The contrast of the entirety of the film to the last sort of closing shot is extreme. It's full on, HDR, gorgeous, beautiful. We have color again. And I wonder if there was an intention in using the color that just didn't pay off. Like it just didn't add to my interpretation or my ability to interpret what he was going for in the film. It was, way too much of a hidden message, if there was a message in it at all.
Well, and that pairs with the shooting style. I mean, I felt watching this. I mean, this was like, we've talked about shaky cam and just, our jiggly monkey sorts of looks in some movies before. But you look at what somebody like in the Bourne franchise, when those films are being put together, and I feel like when you get a Paul Greengrass behind it, or Tony Scott behind it, somebody who has a handle on how to use the shaky cam, they can really build that into a story in a way that is, it can be intense and it can intensify the moments and everything, but it's doing it in context of the story, and I still have a sense of things. Mm-hmm. When I watched this, I really felt like, it was just like all over the place, to a point where it's just like, why are they moving it like this? It doesn't even benefit anything. And the way it was cutting, it's just intense, and it's doing it for its own sake. It just didn't feel like it had the skill of some of those other filmmakers behind it. And
as a result, it makes editing a disaster, right? There are sequences that are just a mess of sloppiness. You can't keep up with, with what they're doing, where the characters are, positions, continuity is crazy. When we meet the daughter for the first time, and this is not necessarily a result of shaky cam, but just a statement on continuity. We have the never shrinking carrot. We have a carrot where the main character, you constantly hear chewing. The sound is, wow, there's chewing in this scene. Even when you're not looking at his mouth, there is significant chewing of carrots going on in this scene. But the carrot never shrinks. I think we see him take a bite of it once, but it never actually shrinks. Those kinds of things. The car chase is just rife with
challenges of continuity. It's just sloppy. It's just sloppy all the way through.
I have no sense of where they're going or what the goal is. It's just, I mean, they seem like they're all over the place through that whole car chase.
Oh, the car chase.
There are some great moments in it. But I mean, you watch the cuts. I mean, we're going to talk about part of the car chase here in a minute in our deep scene dive. But I mean, there are chunks where it's like the editing is just so rushed and sloppy. It's like the camera team did not get the shots they needed, so the editing team is making up by doing these cover-ups to just squeeze things together as much as they can, and it just makes it look like a mess.
It is a mess. I will say the military hardware, those two helicopters are really cool. Obviously, John Moore feels the same way and showcased them a lot. It's fine. It made for some very cool effect sequences, and I think if anything, to celebrate this movie for anything, you have to celebrate it for the sheer sort of artwork that it is.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, and that's, I think, where the film excels is in the complicated stunt work that the team actually put together in the making of the film. The use of the really interesting weapons. I think there are some interesting weapons within the film. The fascinating helicopters that they use. I like all of this stuff. It makes for a really cool, really intensely sounding film. It's exciting to watch, but it still leaves a lot by the wayside.
There is still some cartoon falling. I made the point of Justin Long's fall in through the trapdoor last week. This week, it's one of those things where if you're a McClane, don't worry, there'll be something below you every time you fall down. And I found it really, really funny.
And yeah, that was like, I mean, they highlight the little swimming pool when they come in.
Yeah, right.
I can't remember whatever joke they have about Jersey water or whatever it is, just so they can telegraph that, oh yes, this is the gun on the mantelpiece. We'll be using that later.
Look at that pool. We're going to fall in it soon.
Oh yes.
When we fall off this building, let's make sure it's on this side.
As the baddie drives her helicopter at them.
Right? What an insane way to go. Like, why does she suddenly go so nuts that she runs the helicopter? It's just insane. The final crash effect, right? As she's blowing the helicopter up. Speaking of weird editing, they make a huge point of building an effect of one of the giant blades of the Mi-26 helicopter flying toward the statue of Stalin, and they cut before it beheads Stalin. Why did they do that? Sweet Russian money in this movie, I'm sure. Lucy McClane totally got the shaft, and I kind of flipped through it. She was in the theatrical cut of this movie, which is very strange. It was
a weird thing. I mean, it's weird. So there's the theatrical cut, and then they released an extended cut. Looking at, there was a website that I should have open, but I don't right now, that breaks down every change in the two versions. And it not just this film, but lots of films. They'll kind of look at extended versus theatrical, or PG-13 versus R, or whatever it is. They'll kind of give you a nice breakdown of them. And it's like, this is a weird film where it's a huge re-edit throughout. I mean, we're going to, again, our deep scene dive, I watched both of them just now back to back, and there are just editing changes all through just because it seems like I can't even figure out why. It's not like they're, in some cases they are more violent, but it's not like a constant thing. So, and in the extended cut, they decide to completely cut Lucy McClane out. The only thing I could think of there is, the extended cut obviously came out for the DVD and Blu-ray and digital releases. Maybe in the reviews of the film, the Lucy McClane element just was ragged on a lot because it was so poorly written, and maybe the team behind the film said, you know what, let's cut that out because that got our most complaints. That's the only thing I could think of.
That hurts my heart, obviously.
Very.
And it hurts the film because apart from the fact that, we have her drop him off at the at the airport in the beginning of the film. There's a place where she calls him in the middle of the car thing in the first half of the film. She calls him while he's doing a crazy stunt, and that's funny. But the coda on this, the callback, is that she actually meets John and Jack at the airport at the end of the film, right? At sunset. And it's really beautiful. It is a really reuniting kind of event for the whole family. And I found that really touching and super disappointing that we didn't get that in the extended release.
It really was a nice moment to see the three of them reunited, which made me feel like, if they continue the franchise, having all three of them in another film versus Meryl Streep and Michael Gambon. I mean, that's really what we
Although, need. Andy, I'm never going to be able to see another Die Hard if it doesn't star Meryl Streep and Michael Gambon.
They really also need to bring Bonnie Bedelia back.
They do. Come on, Bonnie.
Just make that would be great.
An amazing movie. Are you kidding? It's like the whole McClane family against the rest of the Grubers. We got some cousins. Cousin Johann.
Johann Gruber.
And Heimlich Gruber are here. Heimlich is a chef.
I think Heimlich is only a caterpillar. I don't think anyone is actually named Heimlich.
He is, and he wears lederhosen. But they are still here for the money and the gold and the revenge.
Of course, yes.
Oh, I'm getting so excited for this movie.
We need to write it.
I want merch. I don't even care about the movie. I want the lines on a T-shirt, and I want. We should do merch for a movie that's never been made. That is Die Hard 6.
That would be awesome.
Oh, Andy, this is gold.
Oh, those lucky Patreon members of ours.
Such gold. Okay. Speaking of, callbacks to other Die Hard movies, I just have to mention The Final Fall, right? The Final Fall, we have one of the antagonists that we're not supposed to like falls in slow motion, right? We also have Shoot the Glass, right? They don't say shoot the glass. Instead, he leads into nobody's going to die today. And then they shoot the glass. There's a lot of glass to be shot. Are there too many callbacks to the first Die Hard movie?
It's a Die Hard movie. There should be callbacks. I don't mind the callbacks when they come in like that. I think that it makes sense. My issue that I have is when it lacks kind of the core elements that actually make it worthwhile, and this one just didn't have that. So I like some of that stuff. I like The Final Fall. It's just, it would have been fine if it was a good movie and you had a great fall and you're like, oh man, that was a great callback to Simon. Not to Simon, but to Hans.
To Hans. Yeah.
But we don't get that. We get just, and it's just such a shame because I actually really like Sebastian Koch. I think he's a fantastic actor. But yeah, you watch him having to do that callback fall, and it's like, ugh.
Should we review our Yippee-Ki-Yay ranking?
I think we should. Which we started last week. Yes.
Yeah,
we should say so this one, the Yippee-Ki-Yay, well, tell everybody, where's the Yippee-Ki-Yay in this one?
Well, honestly, I don't remember. Because what I just watched was he gets out of the car with Lucy in the trailer, in trailer 1, and he was walking into the airport and he says, Yippee-Ki-Yay. And that's now the Yippee-Ki-Yay in this. Is that the one?
No, it's toward the end when he's in the big helicopter and he gets into the truck that's in the back of it. And, he knows that they're about to shoot down his son. And he goes, the S we do for our kids, yippee-ki-yay, MRF. And he drives the truck out of the back of the helicopter. And, it's attached, of course, and it throws the whole helicopter off. And
right.
All that
no, I remember that now. So where does that land in your overall ranking of yippee-ki-yay MRFers?
Well, I think we also, we also should just say that I'm going to give a bonus to this one because it does have the fantastic poster, Yippee-Ki-Yay, Mother Russia.
Yeah.
Which I think is actually really great.
+1 cultural relevance.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so I think last time I was really leaning toward number 4 as number 1, and then number 1 as number 2. That sounds awful when I say it like that.
So I was still number one is number one, and then
Yes.
because of the because of the heart, because of the feels.
Yeah, no, I hear you.
But I think the rest of our rankings were good. We're in agreement.
And then you put the alternate ending of 3 as third, right?
Yes.
Because I was thinking about that, and I'm like, I think I'm going to have to agree with you on that one. Because I actually, even though I have issues with the fact that, here they are playing, spin the bottle with a rocket launcher. And I mean, it's like, what a stupid way to take down your enemy, because it could be pointing at him. It made me so irritated. But yes, I did like that line given there.
Yeah, that was good.
I still think the regular ending of Yippee-Ki-Yay is in number 3 is my least favorite because it's just so anemic. So I'm going to go, okay, so let's see. I'm going to go 4, 1. I actually like this one where he drives the truck off the... This, as much as I dislike
Are
this
you
film,
saying
this
you're gonna put...
might be 3.
Really?
This might be 3, yes. I like that.
So 4, 1, 5.
4, 1, 5. Let's see.
And then
alternate 3.
alt.
Then 2. Then regular 3.
That's 6 Yippee-Ki-Yays, except for the one that I mentioned. There is the one that we get in trailer 1 for this movie, the teaser trailer, which is him saying Yippee-Ki-Yay. He doesn't say MRFer, but it's him going into the airport to go to Russia.
Well, there's also the Yippee-Ki-Yay that he says in the trailer that we watched for Die Hard 4 that I was like, eh.
Okay, you don't like that. You don't like that. All right, that's fine. That's fine. So
but I do. Yeah. Okay, go ahead.
Definitely 1, 4, 3 alt. I think I'll give you 2, and then I will give you 5, and then 3, and that's my 6.
Yeah, 3 is pretty anemic.
I didn't like this one as much as you did, clearly, in the truck. I think
he drives the truck out of the back of a helicopter.
He drives the truck
Come
out of the back.
on.
And then
this
is where he gets thrown, right? From across the valley into the glass.
He gets thrown.
He would have died hard
so
like
many
9
times
in that sequence. It's ridiculous. It's just horrible.
Yeah.
In that sequence alone, he broke every bone in his body, but that's okay.
Well, that's like earlier when he, the car stealing scene. I mean, that's after he rolls a truck. He gets a rocket launcher shot at him. He turns it and he flips the car down the street like 5 times. He rolls out of the car, gets hit by this guy's car, rolls on the ground, and then he steals the car and drives and continues the chase.
Yeah.
It's like, meh. I don't know if that would work for you.
Well, there's a metal plate under his skull. That's all right. It's a metal plate. Okay.
Oh wait, okay.
What?
I have to. No, just now you got me thinking about this final fall with the slow mo fall.
Yeah.
And now all I can think of is Meryl Streep doing that fall.
Oh my God. Yes.
I want that.
Yes. I want that on a shirt too. I just want her face like falling in perspective.
Oh, that's so good.
Yes. And
the
the caption is just cowboy, right? That's her last line. Come on. Gold.
This is really gold. I mean, somebody who's in Hollywood right now needs to make this for us.
Please. Meryl Streep.
So, speaking of bad guys,
and you know what her name is, though. You know what her name is.
What's her name?
Sophia Gruber.
Ooh,
right. And you know why that's important, because she didn't even get to make the choice. He killed them both. That's why she's so mad.
Sophia's choice. Oh my God.
Do you see? This is beautiful. There is no way this doesn't make a boatload of money.
I agree.
Okay.
Man.
What do you want to talk about next, please?
Okay, so bad guys. So we're talking about bad guys with the groupers and everything. So, but I just have to say, I think it's really funny in my head. Okay, so all the bad guys basically get killed, right? Mm-hmm. Now the bad guys, they kill the other political bad guy, right? They have his secret, like their secret spy, who's their massage therapist, break his neck. So it's like, okay, so wait. So now everybody's dead except for the killer massage therapist. So I like to imagine that massage therapist is now the leader of the group.
Totally.
Oh, man.
Oh, that's another movie, Andy. But because of the law of Die Hard, that's going to have to be Die Hard 7 is the return of the massage therapist.
Oh, that's good.
Who's Russian. Oh, man, we've got the rest of the series just locked down.
We better get on the phone with Bruce.
So let's talk about backstory.
I don't have a lot of the backstory, since this is one where it's just kind of they wanted to make another sequel to the Die Hard franchise, and they put it into the works, and here it was. Now, originally, Noam Murrow, who did the 300 prequel, which was 300 Dawn of the Empire, I think. He was attached to direct it, and then that fell through, and then John Moore came on board. I think I don't really know exactly what drew them to him, but they saw something that they liked in his films, and they picked him. Now, I thought what was really funny is that they actually had the script originally titled Die Hard 24/7.
This is my favorite story.
It's so great. And apparently it caused so much confusion because everybody in the internet communities started thinking that, ooh, this is going to be a crossover movie with 24, the TV show. And it's going to be Bruce Willis and Kiefer Sutherland working together to stop
Can you imagine Jack Bauer and John McClane? The whole movie is a locked room, and it's just them torturing each other.
Oh, my goodness.
That's the whole thing. Yeah.
So funny. And so obviously they decided to not go with that. It's a little too confusing to people.
That's the correction. Best. It was 300 Rise of an Empire.
Oh, Rise of an Empire, right.
That doesn't
I was thinking of
better.
Apes, Dawn,
no.
Rise. Those apes got me all confused.
Let's do the deep scene dive.
Let's do it.
This scene, John punches a Russian for not recognizing him and steals his car. Then John drives across traffic apologetically.
Yeah, we really picked this just specifically because it's just about a 2-minute chunk of moment out of the car chase, because it has a pretty interesting stunt that they did where they drive this car off this bridge down across the tops of a bunch of other cars before it kind of escapes that traffic jam and gets onto the road so it can continue the pursuit. Really, it's just, okay, the story is dumb. This is it's a kind of a dumb, honestly, it's actually probably better than the flying car that we got in Die Hard 3, I think. Well, I think we had flying cars in 2 of them. But this I thought actually worked pretty well in context. But it has some interesting stuff going for it. It's just also a little over the top and ridiculous.
The thing I hate the most about it is, again, it's such an exemplary, model for terrible continuity.
Oh yeah.
Oh my God. He's driving across this bridge, and we have these great, glorious wide shots of traffic that show it's very clearly a metal railing, then it's a double metal railing, but when he finally drives through it, it is a glass barrier that is no railing at all. It's just glass. And it like, I can't not see that. Yeah, I just can't unsee this significant start to this sequence as a just massive oversight. Again, to your point, just missing the material and editors just having to make it up. I do think once we forgive, and let's forgive everybody. We're going to force ourselves to forgive the fact that John McClane is doing some really horrible things, probably to civilians in their cars, by driving this giant Mercedes G-Class wagon across their heads. It's a cool, kind of a cool fall. Do you believe it? Like, when you watch it, do you believe that he could make this drive?
Well, I believe, they actually did this, but again, it's because the cars are so close together.
Right.
It's one of those things where it's like a 0.001% chance that it could actually work.
As
everything would absolutely have to. Yeah, right.
Most of these movies, we definitely know that these movies are, but some of these sequences I believe more than others. And this one,
this is on the lower scale. It's on the lower scale. Yeah. And I think to that end, I think but it speaks to what I think these filmmakers are trying to do. And again, speaks to the problems that I think we both have with the film. They are working to make some bigger, better, more exciting, more action-packed stunts and everything. And they come up with a really interesting stunt that I can't remember what they called it, but the gridlock dance or something like that. They had a funky name for it as the gridlock stepladder as he kind of comes down across all the cars. It's a nice stunt. It's real stunt. They're doing something real. But I think in context of what they are working toward, aka making a great stunt in this car chase in the Die Hard franchise, they're leaving out the sense of humanity. And that's, all of these people that are potentially getting hurt and injured because of McClane doing something that could hurt people. I mean, yes, there are people getting hurt in the other Die Hard films. I mean, in the tunnel, there are cars crashing into each other all over the place, but it's not because of McClane. McClane is not causing these accidents, and that's what frustrates me so much here is McClane is making choices that are actively putting people in harm's way. You didn't see it, but in the extended edition, the way that the scene ends, he gets off the cars and he gets back onto the other side of the road and he cuts into traffic and cuts into in front of somebody and then he's like, sorry, as he drives away. In the extended edition, the car that he cuts in front of gets hit by a car behind him, and that car behind them flips over and rolls down the road. And it's just like, that person's going straight to the hospital. And that's one of the things that I think is so frustrating with this film. It's a fantastic stunt. I like seeing this car do this stepladder thing going across the traffic. But in context of the story and what it's saying about McClane, it really ends up bothering me.
You know what it is, Andy? It is like a return to absurd Dukes of Hazzard style stunt driving. Right, where it didn't matter. Like you already were so dissociated from the fact that there were humans in the cars when they were flipping over things and crashing and cops running into or Smokey and the Bandit. Right, it was a comedy, so you didn't really think about the implication of all of these incredibly horrible traffic in annihilations. I don't know another word for it, but it doesn't fit in the context of this movie and this character because of what we set up in the first film, right? We know we have a sense for his motivations, right? And in that film, it was very strong motivation for sort of love of humanity, love of family, and his duty. Right, he's driven by duty, even though he doesn't like it. He doesn't want to be there. He's driven by duty, and in this one, it's just that piece of it is sort of swept away.
Yeah, absolutely. It's very frustrating. I like the cast who's in our scene, though. I mean, Bruce, I think, is nice. Again, Mary Elizabeth Winstead, she calls him inconveniently in the middle of it in the theatrical cut, not in the extended cut. And I mean, they work fine together. Jai Courtney and Sebastian Koch in the car that they're pursuing. And then, of course, Rasha Bukvik as Alec. I mean, he's an interesting villain in this. I kind of like him as a villain. I think he's just kind of, I don't know. I like the smiley villain. He's not quite as crazy as our Inglourious Bastards type of villain, but I think that there's something interesting with him. But I don't know. It's a frustrating scene because I think it could have the whole thing could have just been so much better.
Yep, I absolutely agree. John Cena behind the camera. What do you think of it? We've already talked about the shaky cam stuff. You notice anything in this sequence?
It's hard to say. I mean, it's just everything's moving so fast, and I didn't notice anything that really stood out other than just lots of shaky cam and just a lot of just movement. That's something I did notice. There are a couple times where the camera cuts to like really, really wide shots that feel like establishing shots, but they also feel like there's supposed to be something happening within it that we're supposed to be looking at. And I can never figure out, like, why are we cutting to this? I don't know what they're showing me here. And that happens a number of times throughout where I don't know if I'm blaming Jonathan Cela with his camera for that, although some of the way the movements are happening, certainly, or the way it's edited, but it all kind of comes together. I know there was a lot of handheld. That was another thing that John Moore really pushed. So Jonathan Cela and his team were really working to make this with that kind of loose style. And I've got to say, coming off of 2 films that John McTiernan did. I mean, even the other 2 guys, Rennie Harlan and Len Wiseman, I just felt like they had a better handle on the frame, and this loose handheld camera work that was going on here. I just like, okay, I get it. A lot of people are doing that now, but it didn't need to fit in the Die Hard franchise. It's a world that hasn't needed that before, so don't do it.
Credit to Dan Zimmerman, editor, and his team for doing whatever he did. Because I'm sure this was quite a project.
Yes, indeed.
Marco Beltrami is back for the music. I thought it was good. I actually liked it.
I mean, it fits. The thing that Marco Beltrami's done is he's taken Michael Kamen's themes and he's found ways to kind of blend those in a little bit while also bringing some of his own themes in. This movie had some interesting kind of ticking music that I thought worked nicely, particularly around the court sequence. But even at the end of this sequence, you get that nice da-da-da sort of like Die Hard tune that became so familiar right at the end of this little bit that we're talking about. So, I mean, he does a nice job of kind of continuing that feel.
I just want to bring up Cole Hauser as Collins, who is one of those. It's another one like Amore in Alaska, right? But when we have a guy like Cole Hauser who's a face, like we know who he is. We knew who he was at this point already. Like he's been around, and to have him show up and be, shot as a bit character in this sequence so quickly, I found was really frustrating. Amore in Alaska is in the film for about 2.5 minutes. Clearly, hey, you got a day free kind of a character. I really wish he had been more of a central to the film as well. So that was frustrating. And anyhow, we have a sense that Bruce would do another one?
Well, he said, I don't know if it was before this one came out or since, that he said that, he is interested in shooting a 6th one before he retires the character. Obviously, we need to get on that quickly with our idea so that we can get that made.
Yeah, because he needs to be in it, right? Bruce needs to be in this one.
Absolutely.
That we're making. Okay.
Yeah.
Do we want to talk about the Die Hard villains, how they stack up? We've done the Yippee-Ki-Yays.
Yeah, I think we should. I mean, it's an interesting set of villains that we have here. Interestingly, all really kind of in it for the money. And I think they do a good job through most of the films of creating a more complex villain than sometimes we get. And I just enjoy the thread of them. So it's worth looking at them and seeing what we think overall.
Well, I think the I don't know, probably the most interesting ones are 1 and 3, because we have Hans Gruber and his sidekick Carl Vresky, and we have Simon Gruber with a brother with Katja as his principal thug, and those two as brothers were interesting. I almost feel like the Simon Gruber, was almost felt like stunt casting by the time we come back to Gruber. How do you find him as interesting, as compelling an antagonist as Hans?
I don't think so. I love Jeremy Irons. I think he's a fascinating actor to watch in almost everything he does. I don't know. I think there was an interesting element to having him come in and play Hans's brother. I don't think I like him nearly as much as Alan Rickman as Hans Gruber. I mean, it's hard to beat Hans Gruber. But I do appreciate that they really went to an effort to do something interesting for that. And so to that end, I give Simon a pretty high grade, even if it's not an A. I'd say he's, a B+ for me.
I think so too. I struggle a little bit with Simon just because of, some of the, I don't know. He sort of had to walk the line between the gentleman thief and the military leader. And that's where it falls apart for me, right? When he puts on the fatigues and is hanging out on top of the truck. And I mean, he deflates as a character of substance to me, particularly when compared to, Hans and his absolute, devotion to being a gentleman. I think he's just a class act. William Stewart, Colonel William Stewart, in number 2, he's the stoic. He is driven by principle, and also sort of a revenge story.
I think he's an interesting villain, if only because I think he's got such an interesting opening that I hadn't seen with villains before, and it just kind of sets you off, regardless of where they're hiding his junk. It does.
I'm so glad you're still thinking about that. I was going to bring it up, but now I don't have to. Where's the junk? William Stewart is taped.
That's right. But I think that he is he's interesting mainly because of that. But I do like that he really is just such an evil person to the point of crashing this plane. So I like that they actually take him there. And that's somewhere they don't take Simon. And it's interesting because Simon, he's threatening to blow up the school, but he's just like, but I'm not a monster. And but William Stewart, they had no problem making him the monster. So it's interesting. Is like Simon Gruber a bit of an apology for that aspect of Stewart? I don't know.
Oh, I don't like thinking of it that way, but he might be right. Thomas Gabriel, though, is another standout to me. He would be my number 2 after Hans. I really just adored Timothy Olyphant's work in this film as a principal antagonist, and paired with Mai Lin, Maggie Q as Mai Lin. I thought they just made a fantastic duo. I loved what they brought to the sort of technological heist part, and I just thought that was very smart, and was just eager to see them every time they were on screen.
Yeah, I would put I would do the same. I would put Thomas Gabriel right under Hans Gruber, and then going from there, it's like Hans, Gabriel. I don't know. I'm a little torn here because I feel like I might put Colonel Stewart above Simon, only because I feel like there are some issues with Simon. You mentioned the struggle with him in the military garb. I agree with that. I also get frustrated because he never really returns to the Simon Says games.
Yep.
And that was an aspect that was so strong in the first part of the script. So I think I would put Colonel Stewart 3, Simon Gruber 4, and then way below that I'd put all of the villains that we have. I guess Yuri Komarov is the main villain, but it certainly is a slew of villains in 5. So
yeah, I mean, pretty much Russia is Russia.
Big bad Russia.
Hans, Gabriel, Stewart, Simon, and Russia. We'll lock that in and prepare for Meryl.
She's going straight
Sophia
to the top,
Gruber.
baby. Straight to the top.
Oh boy! How to do an award season?
Well, it's this is not exactly a big award movie. It did weirdly though still get 4 wins and 7 other nominations. A couple of them were at the Golden Schmoes, where it won for biggest disappointment of the year. It beat out Man of Steel, Elysium, Iron Man 3, and something we talked about fairly recently, Star Trek Into Darkness.
Ouch.
So, yes, indeed. It was also nominated for Worst Movie of the Year at the Golden Schmoes. It didn't win the Worst Movie of the Year. That it lost to Movie 43, but it was the other nominees were After Earth, Grown Ups 2, and Scary Movie 5. A lot of numbers in those ones. I would actually, Movie 43, I kind of felt like it was a little bit of a guilty pleasure for me. I wouldn't call it Worst Movie of the Year. I would definitely put After Earth up above that one. So.
Oh, totally. Oh,
man, what a mess that was.
How about the budget? How to do with the box office?
John Moore didn't get as much as his 3 predecessors to make number 5 in the series. He got $92 million, still a lot of money, which is $94.7 million in today's dollars. Still, it's almost twice what McTiernan got to make the first one in adjusted dollars. It just goes to show that what McTiernan did was, he really knew how to make a mark. The studio decided to try their hand with the movie as a Valentine's release this time, opening it February 14th, 2013, opposite Safe Haven, Escape from Planet Earth, and Beautiful Creatures. It opened at number 1, barely beating out Identity Thief in its second week, but it dropped to number 5 in week 2 and out of the top 10 by week 4. In the end, it ended up making $67 million domestically and $238.6 million internationally, for a total of $315 million in today's dollars. That gives it an adjusted profit per finished minute of $2.2 million. In terms of the whole franchise, number 3 actually ranks the highest according to adjusted profit per finished minute, followed by 2, 4, 5, and then 1. But when you look at how profitable the movies were according to how much they cost, number 1 still holds the top slot, making back 5 times its budget. Number 5 is actually in last place, earning back only 3.3 times its budget. Still, it all was a profitable enough franchise to warrant Len Wiseman's upcoming prequel.
Do you know something about this? Is that a thing that's actually coming? Has it been announced? I thought it was in development hell.
I don't know what sort of development hell it's in. On IMDb, it only just says that it is announced. There's nothing on Wikipedia. There's nothing on the Die Hard franchise page listing it. So I don't know. It's one of those things that we might hear more of, but it's like a lot of these things. I think they have to come up with something that everybody's going to want to move forward with. I mean, I think if Bruce Willis is really saying it's going to be his end to the John McClane character, then I think they're going to be pushing to make sure that it gets Meryl Streep in it.
Yes, they are. And Michael Gambon.
Yes.
Okay, Andy. Well, tilting at windmills, though it may appear, we're going to try and rank it.
Yes, we are.
Head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel and you'll see all of our movies. You're going to want to go, I'm going to bet you're going to want to scroll a little bit to find this one. Or you could just swipe over to your show notes right now in your podcast player of choice and tap on the word Flickchart. That link should take you straight to this movie.
All right, here we go. A Good Day to Die Hard, or Oh Brother, Where Art Thou?
Oh, brother.
Definitely, Oh Brother. A Good Day to Die Hard, or The Host. I'm going to say The Host.
Yes, you are.
I so rarely pick that.
I know.
one.
I'm excited. This is good.
A Good Day to Die Hard, or Say Anything.
Say anything.
A Good Day to Die Hard, or Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. Jai Courtney, or a little, what's his name?
Yeah, you don't even know. You don't know.
Shia LaBeouf. There we go.
Jai or Shia.
Jai or Shia.
Andy, I'm going to make some enemies here, but I'm going to go with Crystal Skull.
I am too. A Good Day to Die Hard, or some Stephen King with Apt Pupil.
I'm leaning Apt Pupil.
I'm leaning Die Hard just for the car chase, I guess.
Okay, I will give you Die Hard, and I will raise you the final fall into the never-ending pool.
Okay. A Good Day to Die Hard, or Pritzi's Honor.
Good Day to Die Hard.
I'm going to say Pritzi's Honor.
Ugh. Snooze.
I'm feeling a little flexible, though.
By the time we're here? Really? You know what? I'll put on either one and read a book.
All right, so I'll give it a Good Day to Die Hard.
Okay.
We'll take that one. A Good Day to Die Hard, or a little George C. Scott action in The Hospital.
Oh, The Hospital.
Yeah, I'll say The Hospital.
Yeah.
That's it, man. A Good Day to Die Hard, 321 out of 336.
I'm so glad it didn't reach Prince. I'm so glad. That's a fairly grim ranking, Andy, coming in that low. How'd it do on your personal list?
I guess it fared a little better. I mean, according to the ratings, we just ranked it on our Next Reel Flickchart page. It says it should be at 4 out of 100. I ended up at about 19 out of 100. I'm at 3179 out of 3916. So it's still pretty low.
I'm at 850 out of 1007, and I was disappointed that Flickchart stopped having me rank. Like, I wanted to keep going. But that either way, it's a 1-star movie, and I'm not going to give it a like. I'm not going to give it a heart on letterboxd.com/thenextreel. I don't need to watch it again.
No, and that I think for me is the biggest disappointment. Is I was looking forward to watching this, saying, okay, maybe it's bad, but it'll still be a fun Die Hard movie to watch. There are those movies in franchises that it's like, okay, I can watch that again. Not this one, man. It was real a struggle, and it made me sad to watch this and feel like this was the final entry so far in the franchise. Yeah. What a disappointment.
This whole franchise is just ripe for a redemption story. Like, we need a great reboot. You know what I mean? Not even a reboot. I mean, or a closer, whatever. We need a great 6, and then we can all go to bed.
Here.
All right, Andy. This has been in spite of this movie, this has been a really fun series. I thoroughly enjoyed watching all the Die Hard movies back to back. I had never done that. I usually watch them just sort of standalone, and I tend to go to my favorite. And so it was really fun to watch the other 4. And the completionist in me enjoyed getting this one under my belt. So Die Hard is done. And I think it's fair to say we've got a change in tune coming.
That's very fitting, yes. Yes. Way to kind of dance on over to that.
And to you, sir. I doff my hat.
Yes, our next series, we are going to be doing a foursome of musicals of the 60s. It's going to be a fun little series that's going to include Mary Poppins, The Young Girls of Rochefort, Thoroughly Modern Millie, and Funny Girl.
I don't think we will see any Russian helicopters in any of these movies, and that's probably not so bad. Have you seen all of these? Have you seen them?
I have only seen one of these.
Oh, good fun.
We should actually say that the first one we're talking about next week, Mary Poppins, that is actually one that our Patreon supporters over on Slack helped us vote on. So
that's right.
It's exciting to talk about that one next.
I think it's safe to say that you went fairly far overboard with the voting splits. I think you discovered a tool in Slack and you got really excited about it. Do you remember that?
I'm trying to remember what tool it was.
Oh dear, it was one of the voting tools, and man, did you get excited! And it was every time I opened the computer, there was another vote for 3 straight days. Okay, but what do you think about Mary Poppins versus the Mummy, Tomb of the Dragon Emperor? What if we did that? I know it's not a musical. Vote. It was a good 3 days. Good 3 days.
That was fun. Yes, it was.
Yeah. Well, this has been really fun. Thank you, Andy, as always. Thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to this show, subscribing to the show, even, when we talk for probably too long than this movie deserves. Thank goodness, because when the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
Amazon giveth, Andy.
As Amazon always doeth.
Now, we didn't like this movie very much, so of course we're going to have to do 5-star reviews.
Yes, we are. Yeah. Absolutely.
Do you mind if I go first? Because
go for it. You do it.
It's a little bit long. It's from Richard the Buying Hearted. Back in 2014, he says, "Boy, those Die Hard critics die hard, don't they? Oh, for gosh sakes. By the 5th go-round, there are still people who expect the movie to hit all the first movie's notes. Even movies have to move on. I think this one is wicked action movie, and having John McClane go full circle and be the whining stand around is a hoot in my book. Besides, he snaps out of it in about 5 minutes as only John would. Bruce Willis doesn't do anything by half measures, but he does everything with sly glee in his eye and with that wily delivery of his. It's a really fun show to watch because of him and this new situation he's in with his ne'er-do-well son arrested and facing the death penalty or life in a Russian prison. Cut him some slack, guys. I, for one, love it, and I bet I'm not alone. And all those other reviewers who don't feel this is Die Hard material and didn't find anything to marvel at are probably wasting their time looking for a cameo by Stan Lee. Don't let them spoil your fun. Dad riding to the rescue and getting himself smack dab in the middle of a mess of international proportions, not to mention having Dad spoil his son's admission in Moscow is grist for the Die Hard mill. And boy, do they grind that grain down. The opening action sequence alone is worth the price of admission with a car chase that has to be seen to be believed. The one-liners firing back and forth between Dad and Junior are rapid-fire entertainment at its best. The plot also cleverly mirrors their own angst. with its setup of father and daughter and makes the goings-on even more pointed in the end. Get the movie and have a really exciting evening with Bruce and his new domestic crisis as only it could happen to John McClane. It's great. Now, even movie... I don't even know. I don't want to dive into it, but even movies do have to move on. They do. They have to move on from being great to being just a bunch of crap. They do. I get that.
Rapid fire entertainment at its best. Yes.
Jeez.
That's what it is. Well, I've got a 5-star by Tammy Herzog, who I can only imagine must be related to Werner Herzog.
Oh, because Werner also writes fantastic reviews.
Yes, so I have to read this in my best Werner Herzog, which is probably pretty awful. These are great movies we will watch many times.
That was good. I noticed you did go with Werner, and you didn't make it Tammy.
Should I do it, Tammy? Okay.
I think you should do Tammy.
Okay, here we go. These are great movies we will watch many times.
That's Tammy. That's Tammy.
There she was.
Thanks, Amazon.
It's hard to believe that we've been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
You're telling me producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our originals page when shopping for books and movies we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great conversations.
I was so excited for our big Star Trek film franchise series this season. All those movies adapted from Gene Roddenberry's original 1960s TV show.
As a huge fan, I know that you geeked out over analyzing the adaptations.
Absolutely. From the motion picture to the Kelvin timeline films, seeing the Enterprise crews on the big screen was a dream come true.
Our list of source material isn't just all books and plays. We have the original series in our list of source material. You can rent the episodes to watch and enjoy and support the show in the process.
For our Millennium Trilogy series, we covered films adapted from the original books that launched Lisbeth Salander, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, The Girl Who Played with Fire, and The Girl Who Kicked the Hornet's Nest.
As much as I love Fincher's version, the original Swedish versions are the way to go. We also did our Die Hard series in Season 7.
I can't believe Die Hard and Die Hard 2 were adaptations. Two of the greatest action movies ever.
Well, one of them at least. The other is awfully fun, though. We revisited the classic Mary Poppins for our 1960s movie musical series. A spoonful of sugar always helps the medicine go down.
Old Boy was intense for our Park Chan-wook Vengeance trilogy, and East of Eden and Giant were highlights of our James Dean series.
And a fun time travel mind bender with Predestination to cap things off.
Find all the books behind these adaptations and more at thenextreel.com/originals.
Dive into the source material for your favorite movies. Check it out today, thenextreel.com/originals.